Welcome to Digital Escape Rooms for Linguistics. I'm absolutely delighted to have Professor Rolf Kreyer with us today. Rolf is Professor of English Linguistics at the University of Marburg. He created the linguistics layer, which is probably the first ever escape room game for linguistics. For this absolutely amazingly brilliant idea, he was awarded the Excellence in Teaching Award of the University of Marburg in 2019, and he is shortlisted for a couple of other awards too, so watch this space. For this reason alone, I'm just very, very pleased that Rolf found the time to chat with us today. In terms of how we want to do this is, so we will record the session and we will have questions in the end. So Rolf and I will chat about a few things and you will all have the opportunity to ask questions in the end. So if you put them in the chat, we can collect them later. And can I also say, as with many of these events, thank you so much, Viola Wiegand, for supporting this one. Viola is taking care of us, making sure everything is working fine and sorting out the questions so that we know what we will talk about in the end. Okay, Rolf, fantastic to have you here. To start us off, can you maybe just give us a bit of an introduction to what the linguists layer is? What does it look like? How does it work? Because people got a very brief paragraph, but what exactly is it that we are talking about today?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Michaela, for this wonderful introduction. Lots of beautiful adjectives. I've never heard so many adjectives connected to my projects. That's wonderful. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. And since we are kind of a smallish group, just, we can go any direction we want to go. Okay. So whatever you feel like you want to know, like the audience wants to know, just let's go that direction. Okay. So the linguists layer, I do not know if you have had the chance to look at the project itself through the link. I will just take maybe 10 minutes to, well, and let's just take a look at the linguists layer together. Can you see my screen? Can you see the linguists layer screen? Yeah, okay. So let's assume you have what it takes so that we can enter, okay? Good. Okay, so that's the intro. Typical situation in German universities. I don't know how it is in the UK, but that's what typically happens. Two strong arms putting you in sleeper holds. Well, the Linguist Lair is a classical point-and-click adventure. I do not know if any of you have ever played point-and-click adventures, but it's really just like that. And the aim of this particular point-and-click adventure is to, well, escape from the rooms of my whole team. You know, there's 5 rooms, and each of these rooms focuses on one particular area of my introduction to linguistics. So it is a game that accompanies my lecture series, Introduction to Linguistics. And the first room, we'll just skip the intro, the tutorial. We don't need to do that. The first room is primarily about phonetics and phonology, for instance, right? So, and you, just like, you know, in any kind of computer game, in any kind of adventure game, you can move, look at things, you know, look here, okay, so you can use here this, the looking glass, and then you see, oh, things are highlighted. So these are like the hot spots in the game. So I click on that. So I found something, you know, and then the first thing you can, you know, you look at that and you see, okay, it helps to be able to read phonetic transcription. And this then tells people well, you know what it says, right? But it tells people the password to my office computer. Please come in, I think it is. So from here, then they can go to the office computer, then they type in, please come in. And then, you know, a bit of morphology starts. We won't do that in any depth now. Well, but that is, you know, what this whole game is about. So we have 5 rooms, and to get out of these rooms, you need to show that you know your, you know, linguistic basics. In all of these rooms, for instance, I have a little game or little task like this, where on the back of this thing, you always find these little games about basic concepts of linguistics. So a minimal pair is a combination of 2 words, okay, that differ in only one, no, oh, the sound was right, yeah, one sound. Minimal pairs are used to identify phonemes, yes. Then as soon as you submit, you got a key, yay, we got a key. And then you got the key here in our inventory. And then you see, okay, this here is whatever, Violet. You go, put the key over here. The cupboard opens, you get a smartphone, and then there is a little game in the smartphone about minimal pairs. I'll just give you one little taste of that.
Get ready.
You know, if you've ever played 80s computer games, yeah, the music kind of will remind you of that. Yeah, and then people will have to arrange this.
Success. Get ready.
And it gets more and more difficult, right? Yeah, so, and that is just, that is the game. And the whole game is, for me, it is kind of an additional way that students might have to practice linguistics, and to practice linguistics in a fun way. That is the whole idea that I wanted to, you know, that's why I created that game. And it worked. I don't know, maybe I'll show more later.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, and
yeah,
we start with a couple of questions, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, totally 80s. Obviously, I feel like being back at school here. That's fantastic. So, but I mean, how did you get the idea to do this kind of thing? Because you don't sit at home one day and then you think, oh, I should really create an escape room game for my students. So how did that come about? This had nothing to do with the pandemic, did it?
No. There was. It all started. Well, I'm a bit of a gamer. I think. I can confess. I think I just checked. I spent like more than 160 hours on Witcher 3, for instance. Yeah, because I like that game so much, and I have over 90 computer games in my computer games library and stuff. So I really like playing games, any kind of games, computer games, any kind of games. And I also like these live escape room games. So I played loads of these and I really loved them. And then there was once I took part in a university didactic seminar on game-based learning. Okay. And on the second day of this seminar, we had like a couple of, breakout rooms, kind of, smaller groups. And I was in a group that created a little escape room scenario, very, very simple one, just like basically a box with lock and key and stuff like that. Really, really basic, simple stuff. And we worked on that for 2 hours. We created a little thing with 3 questions, I think, relating to informatics or something like that. Yeah, very simple. And then we had like this marketplace thing where, people should walk around the marketplace and take 15 minutes at each stall to take a look at the products. And people they wouldn't leave our bit of the marketplace, because they wanted to do this. Oh no, let me just solve this one question, this one riddle, right? And that was really amazing, because the riddles were really boring. Everything was really boring, but this, oh, let me just solve this one problem. That was so strong, they wouldn't leave. And so I thought, oh, that'd be really great to have something like that, for linguistics. But then I didn't want to do this live escape room thing, because, the students, they have fun for like an hour or 1.5 hours, and then they leave and I'm stuck with the, with resetting everything, and I have to put extra hours in. So I didn't want to do that. And I've always been looking, since then, I've always been looking for some way of creating digital escape rooms. And then at some point, that was before Easter, a colleague of mine pointed me to one authoring tool, and I tried it out, and it was just so brilliant. I didn't want to meet any of my family or my wife's family. It was Easter. I just wanted to work on that program, but my wife wouldn't let me. So I spent till 3 or 4 in the morning, then programming stuff, and then I thought, oh wow, this is possible with this authoring tool, this is possible. And it was just amazing, and I loved it. And then pretty soon I started to work on the first version of the escape room, which then got the Excellency of Teaching Award. And that was only one room. And then from that, I then expanded the whole thing to the 5 rooms that you see now. Yeah, and that is how I got there.
I mean, you mentioned students, so because it can sometimes happen that we as teachers like something a lot, and then we're totally excited, and that doesn't quite transfer necessarily. But how did your students respond? What did they do with it? How did they enjoy it? Did they get hooked as well?
I think those that played the game, they got hooked. I wanted to keep it completely optional for them. Yeah. But those, and I had this little dream that I thought maybe students will actually try to teach themselves part of the linguistics lecture to get on with the game. Yeah, because we have like everyone has, I think we have phonetics, phonology 2 weeks, and then we have morphology 1 week and syntax another week. And that actually happens, not for many, but 2 students, I know of 2 students who actually, took a look at semantics before we even had covered that in our lecture series, because they wanted to get on with the game. Yeah? And then there were really also, I got a couple of emails where students just said, thank you, that's an excellent idea. We really enjoyed that. And it's a lot of fun trying to solve that. And one student said, yeah, I then, at the end, I wanted to, play it very slowly so it wouldn't stop, kind of stuff, so really nice, beautiful feedback. Yeah. And also the evaluation of the whole thing, it also showed that they really enjoyed it, and that it also had that they benefited from it a lot, with regard to a new depth of understanding, but also just as a way to test their knowledge and to see whether they can do linguistics or not. And another thing that I was not really aware of, which I just found out, by chance, was that it also had an effect, because now, of course, of the corona pandemic, they couldn't meet, and they didn't meet at university. So they had their own WhatsApp groups where a lot of the communication was about that game. I'm stuck here. Can you help me? What did I do wrong? And things like that. Yeah. And that is really beautiful as well, I think. And some people, the Fachschaft, so what is the Fachschaft in the students' body, or what is it?
Yeah, the Guild of Students.
Yeah, so the Guild of Students, they said that it had kind of really changed the way students see linguistics and feel about linguistics, because it's like a bit like maths, and everyone is like, oh no, it's too difficult, it's so complicated, so abstract. And apparently that has changed their view on linguistics a little bit, which is beautiful.
We have one question, and I think we take right away rather than in the end. Marina asks, can the game be done in teams as well?
Yeah, it was the idea was that it is done in teams. So what I wanted them to do is to work in groups of 3 or 4, but it would have to be like, sitting in front of one laptop, or everyone being at their own workstations and working there in parallel. So it's not possible at the moment that you have like a joint account kind of thing, where you can then work and then, but it is supposed to be played as a team. But not all of them did that. Some did that. Some worked together. Some did it on their own. And so I think it's a matter of taste. But what I would like to do at some point, I would like to create a game where people would have to team up. So like they are in the same kind of room or in the same, kind of building, and group A starts in one room, group B starts in another room, and group B has information that group A needs to get out of their room, and vice versa. That would be excellent. But it's possible, it's completely doable. It's not a big thing to do that. So then people would be forced, they would be forced to work in teams. Mm-hmm.
I must say, one thing I really like about it is the kind of the look of it, because it is so very personal. I mean, you really get the sense, funnily enough, I haven't been to your office yet, but you really get a sense of how you organized your office. You can recognize stuff that you think, oh yeah, that is so like Rolf. I can totally see why he would have that in his office. And that makes it a lot more personal than some of these digital templates that you have, where at the end of it, everything looks the same and you lose this sense of personal relationship with your students. So that's something I like a lot. But then also it has a bit like this feel of a movie. So I'm wondering, are there any actual movie references in the game as well that you could show us?
I think the beauty with this whole thing is, and with this authoring tool, is that you can be as creative as you want, right? And I just love being creative, and I just can show you a couple of examples, and maybe you can tell me what the reference is here. I don't know, maybe you need to up your volume a bit, I don't know, but if you listen to that, do you know what the movie reference is?
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for the exam questions, I can tell you I don't have them. But what I do have is a very particular set of skills. Skills acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you manage to get out of my rooms, that'll be the end of it. I will not come looking for you. I will not pursue you. But if you're trying to cheat, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will fail you.
So did anyone know the reference? I don't know, I cannot see the chat.
Oh, people got it. Oh, people got it.
Okay, well done, well done. You know, and that is just, it's just fun to, you know, I'm not a programmer, yeah, but I can go wild, you know, doing stuff that I want to do. Just to give you another example, if you know my, well, you do not know my office. What was the code here, I think? Yeah. So, you know, so this was my office. Now you enter my secretary's office, right? And everyone knows that if you get out of that door, then, you know, you're out. Okay. So then you, but so this is then what happens. So you get the right code. So you see me locking the whole thing up, yeah, and then they still cannot get out. And it's just, I just enjoy doing that, you know, and to be able to express that playfulness, I just love it. Or to show you another example, since you mentioned movie references, I think everyone knows that movie here, the reference here. Again, I cannot see the chat. Any correct answers?
Yeah, yeah. People got it right away.
You shall not pass.
Marie-Louise, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. And it's just fun, you know, to do that. And then maybe, you know, this reference here. Any idea? This is a bit more difficult.
Anyone on that one? The image does look like the Joker, doesn't it? I mean,
exactly. So it is the joke. Well, you know, it's me as the Joker. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I really like with stuff like this. That you can be as creative as you want. That you can, you know, also, I don't know, you know, become visible as a person. You know, which usually you kind of do not do so much, maybe as a university teacher, but this shows another side maybe of you, and I really enjoy doing that. And I think also students enjoyed that, and to see that side of me, that playful side of me.
We had a couple of questions now already to say what authoring software did you use? So maybe now is a good time to take a look under the hood, and if you can give us some examples so that people can get a sense of how would you create things like this?
Mm.
Does it actually look like behind the scenes?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I just prepared a little, hang on. So the authoring software that I used is Active Presenter. And Active Presenter is a slide-based authoring tool, pretty much like PowerPoint. So if you know PowerPoint, that already helps a lot. Okay, and whatever you do, I mean, this is not a software that is geared towards creating digital escape rooms. Yeah, it's a screencast software, and it's a software to create just interactive learning content. That is the whole point of the software, and that is one way of using that. Whatever you do, you can export it to a wide range of formats, as you see here. You can create your own videos, whatever, and what is relevant for the escape rooms is the HTML5 format. And then I just export it into in that format, and I just place it on our learning management system. Yeah, and students access it through that. And so the escape room, the way it is now, it's there, and I just copy it to the next class, So there is no maintenance or anything going on. Once you've done it, it's there for you and you can use it. And you see you have templates for different tasks, just like you would, I think, have it in all the different learning management systems. Yeah, the typical kind of questions, multiple choice, single choice, fill in the text and stuff like that, fill in the blanks. And then you also have a handful of interactive elements. And these are mostly what I use, for instance, for this escape room. I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a webinar as well, right? Yeah, so I want to give you just, of course, after the next 5 minutes, you won't be able to do that, but after these 5 minutes, you will be able to decide for yourselves, oh yeah, I could do that if I wanted to. Yeah, or no, that's not my cup of tea, I won't do that. Yeah, so that is the idea of the next 5 minutes, maybe. The one fundamental thing that you need to understand if you want to work with Active Presenter is the idea or the concept of object orientation. And once you got this, that's really basically it. Yeah, so then it's just ways of applying object orientation. So if you've understood this concept of object orientation, the rest is fairly easy. So object orientation is something that we got from software engineering and programming. And the idea is to, it's basically a metaphor, right? We understand complex systems, for instance, like a piece of code, as an interaction of objects, just like in the real world. And objects, there are three things with objects. They have attributes, they have methods, that is, they do things, and they react to events, okay, by changing, for instance, attributes. So so I'm an object in the real world, yeah, and I have a particular height, a particular hair color, I'm shaved, I'm an Atomi affiliate, things like that. And then there is things that I do. I sleep, I eat, I give workshops, webinars, interviews, and I react to events. Yeah, because of this today's seminar, I have shaved, yeah, so that I look nice, as nice as I can look, So, and it really makes sense if you understand everything within Active Presenter in terms of the real world, and that makes things very easy. Just to give you a couple of, the objects that you can find in Active Presenter and the events that are associated with these objects. So you have shapes, just like you have shapes in PowerPoint or in Word or whatever. You create a shape, and then you can click on that object, shape object. You can move your mouse over the object. You can swipe left and right. Okay, with a text entry object, you can enter a text, obviously, right? With a drop area object, you can drop something that can be dropped onto this object. Like, for instance, the key that you saw, I dropped that on the keyhole. Yeah, and that was then the event was on accept, so it was an acceptable object to drop on that object, and then something happens, like I play a particular sound and I move to another slide of my project, and so on, right? And then objects have different attributes and they have different states. Let's maybe talk about the attributes first. This is the stuff like, you know, again, like PowerPoint, like any office piece of office software. There you have the size, you have a position, you have a color and stuff like that. Yeah? It's really exactly like this. But in addition to that, objects can also have different states. Like, for instance, you can have a button, and this button can be disabled once you've pressed it, so it won't interact anymore. But then also, if you start to drag an object, that is then the state drag start. And then if you remember the little note that I found with the phonetic transcription, this was on drag start, you know, changing the size of the object. So it was very small in the inventory, right, on the top left. And then once I dragged it, it became larger. And that was just, you know, on drag start, change the size attribute. Yeah. So, well, how do I express it? You know, conceptually speaking, it's not complicated. Yeah. I mean, you know, okay, once you drag something, you want it to be large. Yeah. So that's not difficult. Yeah. And so you have on drag start, the thing should look like this. Yeah. And if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not a programmer. Yeah, I couldn't create a website or anything, but with this tool, I can create stuff like that. And so you can do it as well, I think. Yeah, and this is the methods that, so the things that objects can do. So what you have seen in the little game demonstration, each shot of the room is one slide. So if I click on an arrow, I go to slide whatever, yeah, facing south or facing north or whatever. Or I play an audio, like the mouse click sound, or like, I don't know if it is, you know, like the correct pling, stuff like that. Yeah, but through this fairly simple way, or this fairly, I don't know, I think it's a fairly, it's not too complex a toolkit that you have here. Yeah. Once you know what an object is, once you know what an event is, once you know what methods are, yeah, that's it. Yeah. If you click on something, do that. Yeah. Object, event, method. Fairly simple, I think. Just to give you a little example here. For instance, if you log in to my computer, before you log in, you do not see my desktop background, but you see the login screen. But then as soon as you are logged in, then of course I want to show that screen. So, and then the event is the player has logged in, and then the method is, okay, show a particular object, and that is the object. This is German computer eingeloggt klein, so small version of the logged in screen, right? And then you attach a variable to that. And when do I want to show that object? If a particular Boolean variable is equal to true. Yeah. That's not complicated. Or do you agree, or do you think, what is he talking about? Just Michaela, give me a thumbs up if you agree.
Yeah, no, sounds good. I'm just wondering, does anyone have a particular thing you want Rolf to just show or illustrate? You know, to see whether there's anything that you want to see in particular. You can just put that in the chat. Otherwise, we keep going as we are. But if there's something you want to see specifically, how you create this and how you do it, just put it in the chat and we'll go on.
And while we're waiting, I'll just show the one thing then that you also need is variables, right? And the computer, the authoring tool offers string, number, and Boolean variables. And yeah, this is how you track progress in the game, right? I have found the blue key, and then it shows in the inventory, or I have used the blue key, then you don't show it in the inventory anymore. And things like that. So all in all, I think really this program, I do not know of any other authoring tools. I have just used this one. But it's really a quantum leap, I think. Because, and Michaela, please interrupt me if I'm digressing too much. Yeah, I'm getting fired up now. Yeah, talking about this.
Yeah, don't worry. Just keep going.
So what I always think when I think about digitalization in university contexts, what has happened kind of now is actually a step back to some extent. Yeah, so because back then, like in the 50s and 60s, we had this one person who knew stuff, and then this person threw that stuff at students, and students took that stuff. Yeah, so teaching was a one-way street, basically. Okay, and then we had, university didactics, and we had all the different methods, and things changed, and now people with digitalization, like we have lots of YouTube videos and stuff, and they are good, and they are good quality, and they are well made, and it's nice to watch them. Yeah, but from a didactic point of view, you could argue, well, it is a step back, because we are back to I know and I tell you how things are. Yeah, and when it comes to using digital things to share content, I think the metaphor that I have in my mind is that of a museum. Now, if you have museums like from the 50s and 60s, what they basically do is they just throw information at you. You have, one big poster after the other. But if you go to modern museums, it's all about the experience, isn't it? I do not know if any of you have been to the Viking Museum in York. You've ever been there? Yeah. I've been there. It's fantastic. And one of the things that you have in that museum is the Viking age basically is, I don't know, 6 feet down, because you have the Vikings, and then you have all the different layers on top of the Vikings. Yeah, all the the rubble from the buildings and stuff like that. Yeah, and the dirt and everything. So you have to go 2 meters down, 6 feet down to get to the to this part of the city. Well, and the old way of doing that would be to, you have like this one paragraph that says, yeah, there are many layers on top of the Viking layer and blah, blah, blah. But what you do with this museum is you actually go down a flight of stairs. Yeah? And on the walls, you have the different layers, like Elizabethan age and blah, blah, blah. Yeah? So you experience that. And when you then get from the flight of stairs, you're then in the living room in a hut of a Viking family. So that is like you experience the whole thing. And that is what I think digital ways of imparting, of teaching content should be like. And then, and then the other thing, and we tried that once in a project in our university, and I think we had 5,000 or 10,000 euros. And then we hired a programmer to program 2 little scenarios for us. And what we were left with was €0 and no usable bit of content. Yeah. And I think that is maybe an experience that some of us have had. Yeah. And this content that we wanted to do there with this authoring tool, I can do that in each bit of content in 1 day or less. And that is what I like about this. It empowers us to do stuff. And let me stress it once again, I'm not a programmer. Yeah? I really am not a programmer, but this tool helps us to do that stuff. And that is great. And that is why I think it is a quantum leap. And the toolkit is fairly small. I think object orientation, you have this idea of slides, shapes. And then what you see here in these square brackets is JavaScript. I use a bit of JavaScript, but then again, it's very, very focused on exactly what I need to do for working in this for working for my escape rooms, for instance. I'm not a JavaScript programmer. I cannot do that. Yeah.
We already got 2 questions that I think we can take at this point, because one of them is, can you do, so that is Bennett Vincent, a quick demo, sorry if I haven't pronounced the name correctly, but a quick demo of creating an object. So could you just show us one example of how do you create an object for us?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you want a demo. Yeah, okay, so I'll just quickly create that. I start a blank project. So you see the whole thing pretty much looks like PowerPoint with a bit of additional stuff. Yeah, so I just get rid of that. Okay, so I just go to insert here. I have a shape. See this shape. Okay, and then, for instance, I want this shape to hide when I click it. Yeah, let's do this. So here I click on interactivity. Let's give it a nice cursor. Okay, and now this is the important bit, the events and actions thing. So shape 3, that's the name of this thing. Let's say, okay. On click. Or let's play a sound, maybe that's nicer. Click to add action. Play audio. And then I just choose the audio. Here you can choose audio files from the project that you got. You can take them from your computer, or you can use built-in audio. And let's say I just have the correct 2. And that's it. So if we then take a look at that. Yeah, that's it. If I replay it. I don't know if that helped, if that was what you wanted to see. I can show you more if you want to. I'll be happy to show you more.
Did that answer your question about the object? Can you just give us a...
Yeah, I think that gives an idea of how it's done. Yeah, thanks very much. But once you've created all this, how do you then put it online, and how do people interact with it there?
You just you can export it to different. Hang on, I just need to move the zoom thing. Hang on. Okay. You see, you have here an export. You have different options here, and I either use HTML5 or SCORM. The advantage with SCORM is that it will store the progress that the user makes. And so, for instance, with my lectures that I do through this tool, it will store where they stop the lecture. It will store which exercises they have already done and so on. With the HTML5 export, that is the one that you, for instance, have access to. Yeah, in the link, you cannot store. But that is just because it doesn't do it, right? But you could. But I think in principle, you could also write a cookie that does that. But since I'm not a programmer, I do not know how to do that. Yeah, so I have to rely on SCORM. Yeah.
Right.
Jody had a question that already preempts the next one I wanted to ask. You know, how long did it take you, if you think about how much time have you invested in creating a single room? And then if you look at that time investment, is there a way of reusing what you've created so that you make this the most efficient you can? What else have you done with it beyond the game?
Mm-hmm. Okay, there are many answers to that. The first room I created, don't be scared about when I say the number now, but that was like, I think roughly 300 hours. But that was because there were many wrong turns I took. Yeah, lots of wrong turns. And I think most of it actually really was about, I took, the shot I took was not exactly the shot I needed. And so so maybe that we need a bit of context here. So what I did was, once I found, okay, I could actually do an escape room kind of thing with that, I kind of went mental, took my smartphone and just took pictures of my office. Then on my smartphone, I found a beautiful app which created this cartoon effect. And then I had all these pictures, and then I started creating the room, and it worked. And then I got an idea, oh, that would actually be nice. But to create that, I need a different shot. But then my desktop had already changed, or something else had changed in the room. So I had to take all the pictures again. I had to edit the pictures. I had to, cut objects out of the picture and remove them. And this really took a lot of time. So the first piece of advice I always give people is, you need to have something like a Drehbuch. What is Drehbuch in English?
Script. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So you need a script, right? But now I'm a lot more proficient with. I used GIMP to work with the pictures. Yeah. And now I'm so proficient with GIMP that I do not really care about a script anymore, because if I need something, I just create it from whatever is given there. In this, if I don't know if we go back to the look, for instance, if we go back here, just quickly, this wall here on the right, it doesn't exist. Yeah, it's not there. This screen, it doesn't exist. Yeah, but I've just created them using GIMP, so things changed a bit then. But that is what took a lot of time. Now, with what I know now, and if I had like a workshop to explain things to me, I think 30 hours for one room would be okay. Sorry, that was a very long answer to a very short question. I apologize.
It's still quite a significant amount of time. So I think something that would be good for us to know as well is there anything that you can then reuse, recycle, do other things with, so that once you've started this, you can really make this work for you in your teaching?
Yes, yeah. For instance, you saw the Joker thing, right? Sorry, I have to go back to that. Yeah, hang on, sorry. So this is it called memory in English as well? I don't know. Yeah. You just have to match. No. Well, but you know what, and you know how it works. I'm just trying to find one that, oh yeah. So let the cat out of the bag means to reveal the secret. Yeah. And this thing, if we take a look at what that looks like in the active presenter, hang on, I just, because this ticking is not nice. If we take a look at what that looks like in the active presenter.
Yeah, it really creates some stress. You know?
Yeah. Oh, and it's I suppose because I'm the joker, you see, it's not. This is the slide. Hang on. You see, so the whole program is, there's a lot in there. Yeah, lots of slides. Yeah, so it is a lot of work to create all of these rooms, but the work doesn't get more complicated than what I showed you. Yeah, so it's a lot of work, but at the same time, it's not a lot of work because there's not a lot of knowledge that you need to have. Look, by the way, this is, I don't know if you recognize this. Does anyone recognize this reference to a movie? Do I get any? No. It's the, does anyone, it's the Big Lebowski, the dude abides.
Yeah, no, oh, Billy had that, yeah. Oh, and Billy also has a question that I think would fit quite well at this moment here. Could you do mini versions rather than whole games? So one task before you access a particular thing on a module site, for instance. When you do a module in, I don't know, discourse analysis, and then you need to have a little task for people to do there, so that you have, so that's more a small version. Billy, come in and rephrase if you want it rephrased.
Yeah.
Hi, Billy.
Hi. Yeah, I was thinking, because when you were speaking about the number of hours, that you could do maybe little fun things. So for example, even just as somebody's about to access the module site to look at this week's lecture, could you say, before you get in,
yeah, yes.
Doing a lot
oh yeah, I'll show you. I have lots of examples. Yes, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to so this is the slide that is behind the memory game. Yeah, it looks a bit chaotic, but I can reuse this and I can change it whenever I want. And that's the speaking about empowerment. Yeah, I don't have to go and see my programmer again, and and haggle for a good price or anything. Yeah, I don't need to do that. So, for instance, the only thing you need to know here is, look, can you see that this says A2? Yeah, the little tooltip, and this says A1. And that's all you need to know, because this says B2 and this says B1. And you only need to know that the A's belong together, the B's belong together, the C's belong together, and you can create any kind of memory game that you want to create. Yeah. So you can take people who have no idea about the active present or anything. Yeah. I can give them this one slide and they can put their own exercise in that. Yeah. Or to give you another example of a similar kind, and this would also, I think, be an answer to Billy's question. You will not be able to read this, right? But this is a game that I have in, I think, 4 of the 5 rooms. Once they enter, they log in the laptop, there will be 4 questions, single choice questions, 1 out of 3. And they have like, I don't know, 30 seconds to answer these. Yeah. And these 4 questions are chosen, you know, each of these corners are chosen from a total of 5 possible question cards. Okay. And the thing here is, again, the naming of the question card tells you where the correct button needs to be placed. So for instance, this card here is called A2, I think. Yes, a 2A2. And that means the second choice of the 3 options is the correct choice. So people who want to use that template, you know, they have 3 buttons that they can press, and then the 2 of these buttons lead to an incorrect sound and back to the beginning of the game, and 1 button leads to correct and to the next part of the game. So they just need to know, okay, the correct button now needs to go over the second option for this particular slide. That is the only thing that they need to know. Yeah, and that is, you know, and you can reuse this. I have reused this. Now, once I got that template, I use it again and again and put new content in. And this, for instance, Billy, I don't know if that's something that you were thinking of, but that could be, for instance, a game that you have at the start of each module. You know, have you read the text like? Yeah, and you have that game.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing I meant. Thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do not know, Michaela, what we want to do.
We have another question that I think is really one, funnily enough, Pavel, that is very close to my heart. You're asking about open access, because open access is something that is so important in research and getting increasingly important. Pavel, do you want to ask your question for the teaching context here? Because that's a good one.
Sure, no problem. Can you all hear me okay, Michaela?
Yeah, wonderful. Perfect. Very good.
Thank you very much. So first of all, congratulations and thank you for sharing this work. It's fascinating. So I was just wondering, because you were talking about different kinds of scripts. So I was thinking immediately about R, how people are sharing different kinds of scripts. And, you know, if you've developed something that works for your analysis, maybe it can work for other people. So I was wondering if this software more or less works in a similar way. Thank you in advance.
No, not to the same extent as R scripts do. Yeah, but of course, that is a thing that we are kind of working towards, that, creating a community of people that use that software to do these kinds of things. And then you know, at the moment I share scripts that I created, small scripts. I just share them personally with them. Like, for instance, the navigation, you can kind of automatize that with JavaScript, making things a bit easier. And I share that. But there is nothing at the moment in the sense that you have a big community where things are shared. But they do have a great support forum. So if you go there, it's amazing. So the people really are amazing. It really happens that, you know, usually I send them a question in the afternoon and the next morning I got the answer. And other people told me the same thing. And sometimes they will say, I don't understand your problem. Just send me your project and we'll take a look at it. And then they'll fix the project. Or what I once had was, they gave me an answer. I didn't understand their answer. So I said, could you please send me a project, you know, a slide that shows how you do it. And then they send you that slide. Yeah, so from like the official side, there is a lot of support. And I think at the moment, there's not that many people that use this authoring tool in the way that I use it. You know, I've done a couple of workshops now, and we are starting to create a kind of community. But I hope that, you know, maybe one or two of you will become part of that community, and then we can, you know, and also share like things that worked well, like also game ideas that worked well. I did one workshop, or well, it was a series of 2 workshops, and in the second workshop, the people said, okay, we got the programming bits and we know how to do that, but where do you get your ideas from? And how, you know, how can we, you know, change the normal boring content into interesting game stuff? And that is a whole different question. And then you are in, you know, what is it, narrative teaching questions and things like that. Yeah, and that is an aspect that also would be good to have a, you know, a big community to do that.
Would there be a moment now maybe to show us some of the examples from your teaching materials?
Oh, yeah.
Where you've got a bit of variety, because that would exactly hit that. And also maybe as a kind of aside, while you were talking, I was wondering, there's also great potential to say we could do a lot more at conferences where we have conference. So for instance, the Parla conference just gone was a phenomenal conference that was absolutely brilliant. And I could totally see how a workshop like this could be part of an academic conference, to then see how you connect you know, your ideas about subject matter and how you could integrate this with new ways of digital education. But I don't want to, you can see I'm already getting lots of ideas, but I'll shut up now. So I'll let you show us some examples of what you've done in your teaching with this.
Yeah, so this is what what we'll look at now. This is stuff from my from the 2 lectures the winter semester and the summer semester. Okay, and the whole, because of the pandemic, we were urged not to have you know, seminar-like online sessions, but they needed to be asynchronous because we didn't want the system to break down. Okay, so what I had to do was I had to, you know, prepare my lectures. Okay, and the students should be able to just take a look whenever they wanted. Yeah, so but I still wanted this lecture to be to some extent as interactive as I would normally have my lectures. Okay, and that was what I wanted to do, and it, you know, to some extent I think it worked. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, for instance, this is an example from the Introduction to Linguistics, from the syntax lecture. Okay, and I think many of us have done this. When you talk about word classes, one way of introducing that is through the poem Jabberwocky, right? Because you have all these nonsense words, but you know, okay, this must be an adjective, this has to be a noun, things like that. And in my normal lecture, what I would do is I would ask people, okay, what is that? What is that? Why do you think it's that? And of course, if I have my PowerPoint slides, I cannot do this. I can, you know, give them that information, but this is a way to keep them active, I think. And let's just take a listen here.
And to do that, I would like you to take a look here at the this poem. It's the poem Jabberwocky from Lewis Carroll's, I think it's Through the Looking Glass, or maybe it's Alice in Wonderland, one of the two. I think the Jabberwocky, 'twas brillig and the slithy or slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe, all mimsy were the borough goves and the mome raths out grey. I would like you to first click on all those words that you think are adjectives, and then second, I would like you to click on all those words that you think are nouns. So adjectives first, then nouns. Okay, go.
Okay, yeah, so that is, and I've done that before, that is why you can see that, right? And but the thing is here, what people would do, okay, well, no, I won't reset it. But what people would do is then either you have, as I have here, 3 adjectives, the 3 that you see here, or I have 4 adjectives and say the mome wraths. So mome would also be an adjective. And depending on what they click, then there will be 2 ways in which the lecture progresses, and then later it finds back together, and that is doable. In an example like these. To give you another example from, this is a very simple one. This is from phonology. Okay, and what I would usually do in the classroom is I would take a couple of chairs and I got a table somewhere, and that is the way I introduce the phoneme. And the idea of the phoneme, that is the function that is important, even though these 3 chairs do not look the same, they share the same function, and a table has a completely different function. So, and to do that in an interactive fashion.
Furniture that I got here for you. Yeah. Which of these is the odd one out? I'm sorry, I apologize if this is beneath you, but just click on the one that is the odd one out, please. Now.
So the task for them is to find the odd one out. So that's not the odd one out. That's okay. This is the odd one out. Good.
Okay, thank you. So obviously the table is the odd one out here in that case. Yeah, but notice that the 3 chairs, none of these are the same. Yeah, they look very, very different. But you know that these 3 belong together because they have the same function, let's say, in your room. Yeah, a chair has a particular function.
Okay, I'll speed it up a bit.
And that is what you kind of distinguish, like these 2, let's say, classes of pieces of furniture on. Now that is the basis you draw, you make that distinction. And it's the same with sounds. Yeah? I would like you to listen to these sounds here that you have. And again, just hover over the sounds and then choose the one that is the odd one out. And there will be 4 sounds. 3 will be more or less the same, and the 4th one or a 4th one will be different. Which one is that?
And then they hover. Yeah, and then the one is this one.
Good, exactly. So we have 3 kinds of zzz. These are voiced alveolar fricatives, and then we have the unvoiced alveolar fricative, s, and that is the odd one out.
And the thing is, I think the point that I'm trying to make here is, I mean, this is not like state-of-the-art didactics or anything. Yeah, it's just very simple things, but it's the things that all of us do normally in the classroom, right? And we cannot do this digitally, or we weren't able to do this unless you were a programmer. Yeah, but now with tools like these, it is possible to do that. Maybe I give you 2 more examples. Is that okay, Michaela?
Yeah, that is fine. I must say the sounds, they are very game show-like, you almost wonder at what point that now you've won a prize. Very good. No, I really like that.
What else can I show you? Hang on, where are we? Oh yeah, I like this one, and I like the whole gamification. Sometimes I like gamification. I do not know if you know what the minim problem is or what minims are. These are the little number 1s that you have in medieval manuscripts. Yeah, so if you have then an M, you basically have like 3 1s in a row. Then if you have a U, you have 2 further ones, and then you have an N and 2, yeah? And that causes a problem because it's difficult for you to see whether it's a U or an N or an M or an E, well, E is not a problem. So, and then again, the normal way, like let's say on YouTube, would be, okay, here, look, I show you what the minim problem is, right? Look, it's very difficult to read that. But then if you put that into a little gamified context, it gets a bit more interesting, and maybe it leaves a stronger trace in your memory. And let's see.
Okay, have
So I said it's a problem. Why is it a problem? I want you to experience that. So click on here. Then if you click on that, this happens. Yeah. You again have the timer that creates stress. Yeah. And then you need to type in the first line. And this maybe, I hope at least, it leaves a more lasting impression. You know, the stress that you feel, and yeah, you know, it's really difficult to read that than it would if I just told them. Yeah? And then again, it doesn't matter what, well, if I type in the right version or the wrong version, depending on what I type in, I get different responses. Yeah? Now I type in obviously something wrong.
Okay, so you made me very happy. You didn't manage to do it. I didn't manage to do it. My wife didn't manage to do it. So
Yeah, don't know if you could hear that by just saying you made me very happy. I couldn't do it. You couldn't. My wife. And, yeah, but these are just, you know, it's small things that I think make a difference. And then also we can also use this maybe in a more advanced fashion. And this is to give you an example from the Canterbury Tales. Let's see. So this is a little task that the people get here.
okay, and then we'll take it from there once you've done that. Okay, good. Go.
So what they have to do is they can listen to me reading the Canterbury Tales.
With the sure sorte, the drocht of March hath perset the rote.
And so on, yeah. And then they need to place the vowel symbols in the correct slot. Yeah, so shures. Put in here, this can go. And now they have to then find the corresponding present day English sound. Yeah, and that of course is then showers. Okay, and you know, this way you can see that here, they create, you know, this little template. So they kind of already discover the great vowel shift and the changes that happened in the great vowel shift. And that is a lot different from me telling them, yeah, and they discovering it by themselves on their own. And the thing here is, I think that is really an advantage to what we would have in the normal classroom, in the normal lecture hall, is that, you know, I mean, we all know that, right? You ask a group of 50 people, 30 people, whatever, and there's always the same 5 people that answer the question. And there might be people that are just shy or that need a bit more time, but they would be able to give the answer. And in a scenario like this, they got all the time they need. Yeah, so they are also empowered, I think. Yeah, the online, shires, sorry. So shires, and then we have open ear, open. Okay, so they create their own template here.
Wonderful. So in this little excerpt, you have 6 of these 7 long vowels.
Yeah. And then it goes on from there, and I take it from there. But they have had that experience of, they discovered the correspondences of the sounds. Yeah, and that is I think a different thing, right?
Is there something you could say about, especially since you now use this in a pandemic teaching context, so things that you didn't think about when you actually started it, but did you get any feedback from your students about this more exploratory learning, or the fact that they were now all individually a lot more challenged to actually contribute and not just listen and
well, I got feedback from some individually who just again send me an email, thanks for putting all the effort into that, and it's just great, and it's really great, this kind of lecture, and it's different from the other lectures that we see. But I haven't done any real evaluation or questionnaire on that, but I've had my questionnaire on the introduction to linguistics in the winter term, and they really, really liked it. That's all I can say, though. They really thought it was, sorry, but they said it was excellent, basically. And also the results of the final exam were very, very good. Yeah. But I did not have a control group, for instance. Yeah. But I like, all this thing, if you think about psycholinguistics, for instance, yeah, there's so many experiments that you can do with them through a tool like that, through a platform like that. They can experience, the effect of wording, for instance. Yeah. May I show one more example? Just one?
Yes, go ahead, absolutely.
And that is from a, that is from a session that I do on the power of language. Let's just see if I can find this. Oh yeah, it's that one here. I do not know if, this is now very, I don't know, in the context of Corona, of course, it's kind of, I don't know, crass example, but I used that before. This is a study by Tversky and Kahneman about how wording changes the decisions that we make. And well, people will get, like you will see this if you read that. Now just take a minute to read that. And then your task is to choose one of the two options. I don't know, Viola, which option would you choose? There's no right or wrong. It's just, which would you choose?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. But if I just imagine I was really in the test, I guess I would choose A, because this.
Okay, good. So you choose A. Yeah. So you click on A.
And as you can see, you chose what the majority in your group also chose. As you can see in the original experiment, the researchers had two groups. One group got the text on the left, the other group got the text on the right, and you can see which group you have got. And as you can see, you see the results of these experiments at the bottom. Okay, now what is going on here, and why did I choose this under the title Humans as Irrational Animals? Well, the idea is we are rational. Okay, we like to base our decisions on the facts.
Okay, and then, but I go on about that, but this is exactly what happened in the experiment. The only difference between the two versions, it's exactly the same situation as described. The only difference being 200 people will be saved or 400 will die. Yeah, it's either in terms of saving or in people dying. And that is what makes the difference. Yeah, so the numbers here, 72%, 28%, that is what happened in the experiment. And now, again, I can show you these results, or like Viola now just did, she has had that experience. So she has said, oh yeah, I decided like the majority decided. Yeah, and the whole thing, I think it changes. Yeah? It becomes an experience, like walking down the flight of stairs in the Viking Museum in York. For me, at least, that's it. And that is the whole new thing that the chance that we have here, to create digital content that is engaging in a whole new way, I think, and interactive in a whole new way.
Can I probably ask one last question before we see whether we've got any more from people who are attending the session? You mentioned before something about, future of universities, where's digital going. There is now a lot of discussion with some countries just declaring the pandemic over, whether it's a different matter, but people just saying we go back to normal now. And then there's also a bit of a trend, it seems, that people in teaching really just want to go back to before. and forget the things that we had to learn at this point in time. Is there anything where you could see that we could really, I mean, there's nothing good about the pandemic, absolutely not, but there may be something good about how we all learn to cope with it. Is there something that we could take away from this so that we can all make our teaching even better than it was before, and not just think, let's go back to where we were?
I think pretty much in the direction that Billy suggested or asked. You know, can we have like stuff we can have digital stuff to enrich any kind of content that we work with. You know, so I can give my students a text and tell them, okay, you need to do that, this is what you need to read. And then in addition to that, I can then create a couple of things like that, you know, where they experience what they have just read. And the beautiful thing is, all of the things that I have created in this last year, I will reuse it. Of course, I will reuse it. Yeah, and that doesn't mean I will not see my students in the classroom. Of course, I want to see them because I just enjoy teaching too much to, you know, I do not want to, I wouldn't, you know, want to miss that. Yeah, but all of this content will be there for them as well to use that. Yeah, and I think it's really the big chance that we have here is to add the experiential side to the whole thing. I think that is maybe in a nutshell how this could improve or make our teaching even better when we go back to normal. Yeah.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions from people that you want to ask while we still got Rolf? I think, you know, some people ask directly, how can they get in touch with you? So I think your email address is on your web page. So if you Google Rolf Kreier, then you immediately get to that. Billy has got another question. Billy.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the presentation, and totally agree about the experiential bit and also the inclusion of everybody, which is always an issue in a classroom. What I'm wondering, one question about the escape room is obviously you're not making it too difficult, so people have got a chance to get the answers. Do students get stuck? And if they do get stuck, is there something they can click on or something so that they can get a hint and get out?
Thank you. Thank you. It's almost like they paid you, Billy, for asking the right questions. Thank you. Hang on. Yeah, I can show you. So where are we? Oh, yeah, we are here. OK, so let's if we restart the whole thing. So we skip the intro. You get this little tutorial. We haven't done that. Yeah. But so you work your way through the tutorial, which explains how to you know, play that game, which gives you an idea of the mechanics of the game, the magnifying glass, see how that works, and then you get feedback on that. Good. So this paper, okay. Left click on the paper, or left click. So, okay, and at some point hang on. So, and I learn how to drag things and look at things, okay. And then I see this tablet PC here. And this gives you all that information. And it gives you two kinds of information. It gives you information on the, first I have to log in. Yeah, and that is the solution to that question is here on that piece of paper. It's Dörner. I like Dörner so much. Yeah. So it gives you
in Germany.
Yeah. Exactly. So I go back and on, and then I drop this, and now I've learned everything I need to know for the game. Okay. Now this here has two kinds of information. it has all my all the slides of all the lectures, and that is how people then used it. You know, those that wanted to already continue. Yeah. So you can see all the lecture slides here, and it also has notes on the riddles of the room. But to access these, you have to answer little questions. Yeah, and these are very basic linguistic questions, like on the topic of phonetics, phonology, and so on. Yeah, and that is actually a thing that I included after feedback I got from students that said, could we, you know, okay, we got help regarding the linguistic questions. We'd also like to have a bit of help regarding the, you know, riddle kind of problems. And again, sorry to stress, I don't want to get on your nerves, but that is just the, you know, and I do not have to ask a programmer, can you do that for me? But I can do it, you know. And this thing that you see here, you know, this is just a template, you know, these different questions. This is one of these templates, and it's just like 150 instantiations of that one template. Yeah, so I've created it once, and then I just fill it up with new content. Yeah.
Viola, were there any other questions?
There was one quite at the beginning asking about whether it's free. So there seems to be a free version, but for the features you use, do you need to pay for a license?
Yeah. If you want the full license, it's, I think, $200. And it's a license that you can migrate to any computer that you use it. Yeah, so you deactivate the version on your office computer and you take it to your home computer, and then you activate it there with the same license. So that is possible. So which means that you can also share one license. Or for instance, I know, Viola, you create content and you send the content to Michaela, and then she publishes the content, because that is the one thing really that's the difference between the free version and the professional paid version, whatever. Yeah. And it's really just €200 dollars once, and that's it. It's not like you do not need to renew it. Of course, there will be newer versions. Yeah, so this is version 8 now, I think. But even with version 7, anything that I did here, I could have done with version 7. Yeah. Okay. So, and I think it's comparatively cheap, actually. I think there is something like, what is it called? I don't know, storyboard 360 degrees or something. I don't know. And that is a lot more, for instance. But if there is other stuff like that, please let me know. Yeah, I'm very interested in finding new software also. Yeah, Articulate Storyboard 360. Thanks, Jan. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. Mm.
So this one is Active Presenter from Atomy Systems, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And as I said, the support is great. I have never seen anything like that. It's brilliant, really brilliant.
Do we have any other questions that we haven't picked up on yet?
I think you picked them up throughout, but yeah, if there's anybody else who would like to ask a final question or two. Maybe everybody's already playing the game.
Oh, someone says, what LMS do you use? It's called Ilias.
Oh, right.
That is, but you know, any LMS that publishes HTML5 or SCORM works, right?
Okay. So if anyone else who wants Oops, someone's got the microphone on. Do you wanna?
Can I just ask, have you thought of actually students cooperating as part of the assignment or something, you know, cooperating and creating a game for them? Or I'm talking from my perspective where I teach trainee teachers, English teachers, and obviously such games would be suitable for kids at school, maybe. So just asking about the experience, if you have tried to assign this task to your students.
I have once tried to, I gave them the option to not so much program something, but to create a scenario that's, you know, then I could put in the game. Don't know if you know what I mean, you know, but like a question or a riddle, a chain of riddles or something like that. But they were all too shy to try that. But what I want to do at some point is I want to put all the knowledge that is in there. I want to present that in a more accessible fashion, like a documented library of templates, for instance, you know, so that then I would have like a session, like maybe one afternoon, where I made my students comfortable with the authoring tool, and then maybe another session where we talk about game design, things like that, and then we have like a hackathon of one weekend when we meet later, and I'll just be there to help them with problems that they have, and then they can create their own little games. That would be an idea. That is the scenario that I have in mind. Yeah, but what you could do with the smaller things, yeah, of course, and that is already what I've done with the smaller things, like the memory game, for instance. Yeah, they can use that now if they want to. Now that is possible already.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, and that would also take you much closer to the idea of the open access, obviously, as well. Is there anything else that we missed, or if anyone still wants to ask? If not, I think, Rolf, you are happy for people to drop you a line. You've put your email in the chat. So if anyone got inspired today and wants to try something out, has some ideas, wants to just talk about it, just drop Rolf an email, and we will also make sure that if no technical glitch happened, this recording will be up for people to watch, and we will send you an email when it's online. So Rolf, thank you again so much. This was a brilliant session.